Right, let's how we all doing, folks? Welcome to the hot stream where I am just very warm. No wine today. Instead, I've got an array of weak ciders because I've got to be up early tomorrow for a conference. So we're chilling with some ciders. Tastes like juice. Yeah, I'll build up this tune while we wait for folk to filter in. How goes things? Things are alright, Arnok. How are you? It's hot. That's the main thing. Let's build out this tune. That's quite fun. That's quite chill. Slightly different vibe from normal. Getting some summertime beats going. Yeah. So here we are. We're gonna we might get some outside noise from a lot of the stream tonight because the window's open. Because, like I said, I'm going to continue complaining about for the rest of the day. It is hot. How is everyone else? Everyone not doing well? I'm going to expand this chat so I can see it better. Whoops. Just left the Wisecrack live stream. Oh, I've not watched Wisecrack stuff in ages. I'd forgotten they were still going. But welcome. I hope it lives up to Wisecrack. Yeah. Real hot in Canada too. Yep. Weird. It seems to be getting hot everywhere. I can't figure out what that's all about. I mean, I've been mainly focusing on orcas in the world leading the revolution. No vanguardism except orca vanguardism. We stand with our aquatic brethren in this endeavour against luxury yachts. Yeah. So my day's been it's been a relatively relaxed day actually. I got a job rejection. That wasn't great, but aside from that, it's been a relatively positive day. Was in a conference, the first part of a two-part conference. The second part I'm contributing to tomorrow, which is why I've got to be up early and why I'm not going to drink a bottle of wine tonight. Unfortunately, tomorrow I am the last presentation in the conference before everyone goes and gets some free wine. So I have to make my presentation gripping. It will be like about 6 o'clock in the evening in a roasting day in a warm building with no air conditioning, and I've got to talk about the fragmentation of social subjectivities and class relations under neoliberalism and try and not make everyone fall asleep or want to die. So that should be good. That's tomorrow's job. I was doing the first part of that today, which was online, which was more relaxing. I actually did some gardening while I was gardening on my balcony while I was listening to last presentation on a hot day on a Friday in an unair conditioned building. It's gonna be a struggle for everyone. So today's one I just put on my headphones, I switched my camera off, and I've been buying these little, they're not little, these big planters, like half-meter long planters, because on my balcony I've been growing a bunch. My sister for Christmas got me a thing of like cat herbs and catnip that I've been growing from seeds, from little seedlings, and I've been growing chili plants and lavender as well, all from like seeds. And they've finally gotten big enough, so I had to buy big planters to put them in instead of the little pots that they were in. And I've finally gotten enough, and they're finally all laid out, and they're looking really good. the chili plants, like amazingly, like the chili plants, I'm amazed they grew because we just took dried chilies that had been sitting in my cupboard for weeks and just dumped them in a box and with a little bit of soil, and they just started growing, and they've done incredibly well. They're doing really, really well. I'm really pleased with it. We've got something, the lavender's doing brilliant. It's great. I've discovered a passion, and that is trying to make London more human by adding some greenery. The cat herbs are massive. The cat does not give a fuck about them. Every time he's out on the balcony, I like pick him up and like show him the cat herbs and the catnip, and he just doesn't give a fuck. He wants to try and eat some old dead bamboo that's on the balcony, or try and jump over the edge to his death, because why wouldn't you? You know, you've got some drugs, you might as well chew on some bamboo and try to jump off the edge of a balcony because you saw a bird. That's his life. Hello Mithril, how are we all doing? Yeah, so that's been my day. The other bit of news is I've might have finally got my Viva examiners sorted, pending their acceptance by the university. I think I've finally got my Viva examiners sorted, so I will soon be cracking ahead with that. My PhD is basically done, which is great. And we just need to get this fucking Viva done so I can get a job. And that's job rejections coming in because I'm applying for them even though I've not got the PhD yet. I'm just like, trust me, I will have it. Which is true, like most of the time, if you get to this stage, you're gonna get it. So, but it's better to be like, here's the Viva examination date. A straight edge cat. The cat's a fool. I should probably do what I'm drinking today as I do normally with wines. So we've not got a wine today, but we do have an old moot cider, New Zealand. That's a New Zealand cider. It tastes like juice. It doesn't taste like alcohol. I don't like ciders that taste like ciders. When I was in first year at university, I drank too much of it. It's one of those one of those things where it's like, I used to like this, and then I drank lots of it. But this is fine. Yeah, got some ciders that don't taste like ciders. This one is berries and cherries, and let me tell you, you can taste the sugar. I can feel my teeth rotting as I drink. So that's what today's cool drink is. The other thing I need to do is buy more soil. This week, a bag of my flatmate was on a call. He works from home in the living room, and a delivery came, and he opened the door, and I heard this massive thump, and I was like, oh shit, I feel bad for this. And then I heard him say, oh, it's just my housemate's compost. And my 40-litre bag of compost arrived. And I've already used most of it because, obviously, to fill up like 50 centimetre long, 40 centimetre deep planters takes a lot of soil. So I'll need to buy another 40 litres of soil. I'll have to. Otherwise, I won't have any spare soil. And, you know, the man who has no spare soil is the fool among men. That's the phrase. That's a famous phrase. That is the phrase. Yes, that's all that's been going on. It's been a while since I've last streamed because we've not done one since the last video, have we? Yeah, this is the first one since the last video. You have a friend who is struggling with his masters, told him to take some time off between masters and going to do a PhD. Any advice? I am a big advocate of taking time between doing a masters and doing a PhD, especially if you've done undergraduate masters and then going on. I think that it helps you as a scholar. It just helps your life and mental health to take a break, and it helps you figure out if doing a PhD is something you actually want to do. the 2 years out I took between a master's, finishing my master's and starting my PhD, were extremely valuable for those reasons, and they really helped. Basically, they've helped my research and just helped me as a person, and helped me with like later employability stuff, like having jobs outside of the academy is useful. And you know, the thing about doing like academic stuff is, as like PhD, you can get away, like the benefits and drawbacks of having like academic stuff is you get to control your own time, but there's a benefit of working a 9 to 5, and that is if you switch off at 5, you don't have to think about it, you don't have to work afterwards, and that's useful to have. It can be really helpful for your sort of mental health as well, to be able to just switch off after 5 o'clock. And I say that in the full knowledge that the job that I held, the main job I had in that 2 year period, was one of the most devastating, emotionally draining, mental health bad jobs I ever had. But still, I'm a big advocate for it. I mean, that's not saying like you're wrong for not doing it, but just it's I think a helpful piece of advice. PhD nearly broke me. Yeah. I've been very lucky with my PhD. Partly because I've got myself and my supervisor gel really well. He leaves me alone basically to do what I want, and then is extremely encouraging and complimentary of my work, which is good. We just have a good rapport, which I think is the main thing for a PhD, more so than looking for somewhere that's prestigious or looking for a department, is looking for a PhD supervisor who you'll get along with. And basically because of that, my PhD has been pretty fine, which is good. There was a period I was clearing out some old bits and pieces the other day, like old documents and stuff, and I found some notes from a period where I was clearly quite stressed out. In retrospect, quite stressed out about it. Hadn't realised at the time, and was struggling with like the theory, trying to generate theory and understand the theoretical frame and tie a bunch of stuff together. And I found all these absolutely batshit diagrams that I'd been drawing. And it was like fucking Zodiac killer shit. It was like a circle with like the word social and then arrows pointing towards like health, movements, life in general, and then like an arrow pointing down that says like base. And I was just looking at it going, fuck man, I was losing it a bit there. I didn't realise it at the time, but that was clearly some struggles were going on at that time. Maps of neoliberalism, exactly. Bad maps of neoliberalism. Yeah. But we're nearly done. We're nearly there. I've got the full document and everything. I was pointing to base. You must have. Yes, so there was some base superstructure stuff in there, because there's like part of the argument that I'm making is that the process of subjectification is not a ideological, not like a Foucauldian ideological positioning, but a re-articulation of labour relations, which brings that what would be understood as a superstructural ideational sort of reflection down into the base social relations of neoliberal capitalism. So that was one of the things that I was trying to map out and trying to draw diagrams for, and hadn't quite figured out how to sort of integrate it and how to figure it all out and how to speak about it. This is what my presentation's about tomorrow, about like the sort of fragmentations of subjectivity and how those represent class relations, base class relations within neoliberal society, and how challenging those forms of fragmented subjectivities along gendered, racial, necropolitical and like disability lines are essential for challenging neoliberal capitalism as a whole. I shared this on anyone who's a patron. The script for that is on Patreon if you're interested. How did my supervisors and professors take that initially? Hope they were okay with it. Outtake what? Sorry. About my rambling theories. I mean, I didn't really talk to my supervisor about it. The first he sort of got about it was like the basically finished chapter, at which point I'd figured it all out. We'll see about that. But like, as my ideas were more crystallized, so he was like, this is not my area. He's much more of a he's very good at being very practical and pragmatic about what you need to do to be safe to get this PhD. So he's very like, where's the evidence and the data, and does your argument logically flow? And reading the stuff, the argument logically flows and the data and evidence is there. So he's like, yeah, this sounds good. It's not my area, the theoretical stuff, but the rest, it looks fine. Well, if there's someone in my Viva who has, and this isn't going to happen because we've chosen folk for the Viva, well, this probably won't happen. It won't happen with one of them. It might happen with the other, but I doubt it. If someone takes a firm stance against the theoretical sort of positioning that I used, then I might have some issue because they'll be like, I reject the foundation of this theoretical framework. You're like, well, I can justify the theoretical framework. I can make an argument for why I believe this, why I think it's useful, and why it makes sense within this dissertation. But if there's some like academics are just dicks. Not anyone that I've got for a Viva, but some of them are just dicks. And some of them will be like, yeah, I don't like this at all, so, fuck you. You're failing. That's the bad scenario. I've only very rarely heard of such things happen. But yeah, that's the biggest risk factor. I'm going for take a very safe guess. Your thesis is qualitative. It is qualitative, yes. I did quantitative study. I was quant focused in my undergrad, so I know how to do all these like stat stuff. And I'm not an expert, but I can do like various stat things, and I'm also aware of how much they can be manipulated to produce absolute shite. Which is one of the reasons why. One of the reasons I sort of took against quant stuff in the first place was doing quant research and being like, this seems unsound and reductive, and not like the standard way that quant stuff is necessarily reductive, but like bad reductive. I'm sure there is a place for quant analysis. It just needs to be smaller. The first my supervisor knew of it was he found 3. What the fuck? I'm gonna have to look back at what Mithril is saying, because that is a sentence. Thank you. What's that name? Cyber Sona. Thank you. Just a joke. Okay. Quant research in comparative political science is mostly the fine art of trying to come up with the illusion of an interesting analysis due to lack of any kind of control. So I've got two things to say. First, one of my friends recently, or about a year ago, graduated his PhD in doing like quantitative analysis of like geography, like social geography and quantitative analysis. And we were chatting, and he was talking to me. It was like, so I've spent 3 years researching what would be helpful to get women in a particular area that has had declining fertility rates. Like there's declining childbirth because, and this has become a problem for this particular context. And the government wants to find ways of encouraging more children. So, and he asked me, what would your guesses for what would be effective ways to do that? And I was like, I don't know, poverty relief, free childcare, social housing, all that stuff. And he was like, yeah, basically, that's basically right. So what you've just done, John, is you've guessed the conclusions in 3 seconds that I spent 3 years doing mindless quantitative analysis to prove. And he then said, for that reason, I decided to quit the academy. And he got his PhD, and he just quit. He was like, yeah, this is bollocks. Quite extraordinary. The other thing was one of the round tables in the conference, the digital conference I was in today, was about interdisciplinaryism, interdisciplinary analysis and work. And there was a lot of talk about how it's interesting how lots of disciplinary barriers are breaking down, and there's lots of cross-pollination between sciences and social sciences now, which is I think is good. I think this sort of firm segmenting off of disciplines is not great. But the thing that's in my head during this, and someone did sort of articulate this question at the end, was how within this sort of breaking down of firm disciplinary barriers, how do you stop the quantification of science and the specific kinds of epistemologies and methodologies within the hard sciences becoming so embedded within what is understood as social science and humanities that there is no room for any alternative understandings? And I think that is an important feature of what is happening with a lot of interdisciplinary stuff, and the over exaggeration of the importance and validity of quantification, which has been going on for decades and decades now. Particularly, I think political science, economics has always been like this, but since it became economics, not political economy. But the quantification of political science has been going on for a long, long time, and I think it's massively to its detriment. And we see and part of it is the research assessment stuff. You've got to pump out a bunch of research, so people do these quant analyses of things which can be easily explained without doing massive quant analyses, but because quant analysis is figured as like the proof of something, then they're like, oh, we've done this quant analysis, here's the proof of this. And then someone else comes along and goes, oh, we've taken a quibble with this particular bit of their methodology. We find basically the same things, but we do it in a slightly different way. So we've also published this paper. And then someone else will do that, and it was on and on and on of all this quant stuff on quant stuff with very little actual saying anything, explaining anything, just reporting things. And that way kind of obscuring what's going on. And I think that the breaking down of like these firm disciplinary barriers could, when combined with that tendency, be really difficult for a lot of social like sociologists or humanities researchers, a bunch of like social researchers who have very different methods. And there was an example of that recently when I was in a meeting with a new head of my institute, and he's not an academic. He's from industry. It seems like a very nice man, but he wants to sort of transform the institute that I'm at into more of like a policy generation, kind of like a think tank generation institute. The problem with that sort of analysis, and like that's combined with like firm testable hypotheses, firm quantifiable understandings of the world, these are the things that policy often rests on. The problem for that is that my research is specifically anti-policy. It's very specifically anti-policy for a number of reasons. And it was weird sitting in a meeting like that and just thinking, oh, wow, I would not get a job here. There's no way I would get a job here. That is something. There's these sort of tendencies and trends within the academy are they're not the most worrying thing, because there are worse things going on, but they are a worry. A lot of social sciences did that in the 1950s as part of their behaviourist turn. Yeah. Nice mic. Oh, it's a good mic. Yeah, I'm glad with this mic. It's made things much nicer for the streams rather than my old one, which was very. I don't know what was going on with that mic. It was unreliable. But this one's nice. Psychology is bad for a lot of the quantification stuff. Obviously, economics is the worst because they see themselves as they specifically see themselves as a science. And the turn into seeing politics, the study of politics as into political science as part of that as well. But yeah, it's fucked. It's one of the things that I would say is fucked about the academy. We should probably talk about the last video, because we're not. It's been a while. I think it was 2 weeks ago that came out. It was a Thursday. I went up for a wedding. And I put the video out on the Thursday. Yes. So it's been about a month since the last stream. I don't know what to say about the video. I didn't perform as well as I was hoping, which is a shame. Which is part of the reason why I decided to bump up my Shrek 2 being a queer masterpiece video, because we need some views around here. But I think it turned out quite well. I was quite pleased with it. A lot of people really did not like the tongue. Lots of people did not like the tongue. I didn't like touching it. Your family members always respond to my political solutions as unrealistic. Is this something you encounter? Yeah, of course. Everyone who's confronted with trying to push for a new world is told that it's unrealistic. You just, like, I've found that what's unrealistic, and people do respond to this, is like, we are clearly living through one of the most dangerous periods, and there's no way to stop it as things are going on, and that becomes clearer and clearer, and I find it unrealistic that without massive change that it will be fixed. And that is unrealistic to me. And people say it's unrealistic. Fuck it. That's like not really your job to convince family members whether something's realistic or not. You can argue with them. Say, yeah man, it is realistic. Realistic or not is what needs to happen. And there's lots of stuff you can draw on. But yeah, I've come across that before. it's not recent. Mithril saying it's not recent. My dad was forced out of a good uni career because he thought teaching was more important than raising funds for the department. That's interesting. My dad was a lecturer. He had a similar thing. He didn't publish much. He didn't get promoted to like professor like status, and part of that was not having a PhD, because you could get into academic jobs without a PhD in the 80s and before. Wow, amazing. But he got basically landed with all the teaching gigs, or huge number of teaching gigs, because he liked teaching and he thought it was more important. So the department just sort of shunted a lot of teaching his way because of that. So he didn't lose his job, which is nice. But he did get sort of thrown the teaching stuff at him. The tongue was so gross. It was a little bit gross. It was an effective metaphor for the reheating of, the nonsense on stilts of Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism. And, just because the cat tried to eat it, oh my god, that cat during that filming, oh boy, he was causing some trouble. It was a little bit gross. Yeah, it was really bad to touch. It was really bad. Because it's slimy, and it like sticks to you, and like it sticks to everything around it. I now have 3 tongues in my drawer over there. Three little tongues. What am I gonna do with that? I don't want to throw them away. That seems wasteful. So like, just like asking my friends, does anyone need a tongue? Do you need a wee tongue? Yeah, it was gross. It was gross to hold. I think it was a very effective bit of theatre, and I was genuinely surprised about how many people really, really hated it. I thought people would be like, ugh. But some people were like, this is the worst thing. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Glad to stick out the thumbnail. Yeah, I mean, it's still in the thumbnail a little bit. The cat with the reason he's never done this before. The first when he comes into this room, he'd open the door himself. I'd forgotten to lock the door because we child lock the doors because the cat is relentless, and I'd forgotten that. And that's what he got in once there. The other when I was filming in the kitchen, he kept trying to like jump up and like squeeze his way around the teleprompter and the camera, and because I'm quite tall, I had to like balance the teleprompter and the camera on a box, because I'm a professional who balances his equipment on cardboard boxes. It was the box that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came in. That's what I balanced it on. And the cat was like, hey, I'm gonna be up there. I think I'm gonna be up there. I think I want to be up there. And every 5 minutes I'm gonna get up there, and I'm gonna force you to pick me up and chuck me off. And then I'm gonna look at you like you've just done the meanest thing possible. Which he did every time, and then started shouting at me from the corner, or running around, or oh god, at one point he started zooming around the place, jumped onto the counter, and then like leapt from the counter onto like above the fridge, just above the fucking teleprompter. And I was fucking squeaky bum time there. There was like periods, there's like takes of me getting through segments really quickly because that cat was desperate to fuck me over. He was desperate to absolutely decimate all my shit. Yeah. God. That's why I rarely film in anywhere other than my room, because the cat is he's just a menace. I might do some of the Shrek video in the living room though. The cat mentions were a good break in the tension though. That is true. And here's a bit of movie magic for you. Not all the cat breaks happened exactly as I filmed, as they appeared sequentially in the video. Oftentimes, I took them out and edited them into different places to break up that tension. So that movie magic, that peek behind the kimono at how YouTubers lie to you. It took me a while. I wasn't being rude about electronic arts. I mean, I could be rude about electronic arts. I feel like they're a brand that have done a lot of terrible things. I feel like I could probably do a bunch of research and be like, hey, this company sucks. But not this time. This time it was just about the effective altruists. And how they are a massive fraud. One interesting thing about this, about like doing the research and everything for the effective altruism video, is that the reason I did this video was because my dad had recommended me 2 of William McCaskill's books, Long-Termism and whatever his effective altruism was. One was, and he was like, I was on a dog walk with him, and he was describing long-termism, and it was like, it's rigorously researched, and there's this theory of value lock-in, and I was like, what does that mean? What? Value lock-in? And he was like, oh yeah, and there's this like how like the values of we needed like a change in values to abolish slavery, and I was like, what are you reading? And I was like, and then he started like talking about the EA stuff, and I was like, this sounds like bullshit. That sounds like some bullshit fucking utilitarian nonsense. And he was like, oh, I don't know much about that. There's just he seems very well researched, and it's very well written. And that's how we got my dad. Because my dad's normally, like, he was an academic. He's normally very discerning with what he reads, and like he's read a bunch of stuff. Like, he was reading a bunch of stuff recently, and was like, yeah, there's nothing in here like the conclusions and the arguments. It just didn't fit well. But what gets him is if something's well written, and that long-termism is written. Maybe I've talked about this in the video, but like the sort of professionalized, philosophical, like very academic way that McCaskill especially puts forward as ideas, gives them that legitimacy to people. Oh, this is someone, and like the thing he does at the start of this book, of the long-termism book, is McCaskill talks about like, all these researchers, all these, I forgot to switch my light on, all these researchers who helped him write the book. So it's not just his work in there, but it's all these people who've been fact-checking his work, and like teams of researchers who've helped him like find the truth. There we go. Find the truth, and that gives it like another sort of veneer of legitimacy. Because, you know, how could they be wrong? They've got people fact-checking them, teams of 100 people fact-checking them. The obvious problem is, you can have people fact-checking your stuff, you can't fact-check your theory. So if your theory is about value lock-in, how do you fact-check that? You can't. You've got to deal with that sort of foundational, like, understandings of the world. You got to criticize it on its like assumptions and the context in which it exists. So the number of fact checkers talking about how there was all this money that went to the abolition cause or whatever. Individual facts might be right, but in that context they're spreading some bullshit. There is one thing though. I think when McCaskill talks a lot about the so-called economic argument against he talks against the economic argument for the abolition of slave trade. That is, in his view, that the argument goes that slavery had become unprofitable for Britain, and or had become unprofitable for slave owners, and that was the reason why it was abolished. That was never the argument. The economic argument is not that. That is a misunderstanding. You can fact check that argument, because that is not the argument that is put forward by those people. The argument is that the rate of profit was declining, which is a different argument, and that can be fact checked as well. Things can be profitable, but the rate of profit can be declining, and that was for a whole bunch of reasons, including slave revolts, including the expansion of Britain into East into India, and all these different factors. The Haitian Revolution, and then you've got, if you want to talk about wider contexts of why slavery was abolished, I think a very useful frame is the Gramscian frame. For slavery to remain profitable, a new frontier was needed, as part of that, yeah. So there's frequent misunderstandings of a very basic point, and that he clearly just doesn't understand, hasn't put in the effort to understand, or maybe does understand and is just being cynical. Yeah, so I was going to say something. Yes, so one of the things that surprised me when I was doing this, when my dad first told me about this, I was like, this sounds like some bollocks. And I sort of thought, maybe it's just some sort of group of like well-meaning liberals who are bound by their own ideology. Oh, cheers, Arnock. I'll see you later. Yeah. So I thought these were like liberals who were jailed by their own ideology and couldn't really see the bounds of who they were and what they were advocating. By the end of the research and researching the actual movement itself, I have become convinced that these are genuine fraudsters. That these people understand what they're doing, and that they are malicious actors as part of a fraud. Because so much of it's so much of it is so culty. The analysis of the actual movement itself, the way it's like does this like funnel system, and all the stuff about marketing and getting these fuckers like people to get on board with like poverty, and then bringing in the long-termist ideas. It's all very like cerebral. They all know they're doing it. They know that they're lying to people, and they quibble. They're like, oh, is it ethical for us to lie to people about what we're doing? Yes, so we're gonna lie to them, and they lie. And then the Sam Bankman-Fried stuff is like, oh yeah, obviously there's a bunch of fraud. How could you not know that? You were friends with the guy. How could you not know this was a big fraud? Did it help that he paid for your palatial estate, or that the money raised and benefited from this paid for your palatial estate? All this stuff. I just like became convinced that these people are malicious actors, and quite a few comments on the video have been people saying, "Oh, I joined effective altruism when I was like a student, because it seemed like a good thing. They seemed logical, but as soon as I started to question things, they started to like fridge me out, and they started to like, and I got in like people getting expelled from the movement, or like getting fridged out, or getting like cut off, because obviously it's part of a movement. So they make friends, and then suddenly they get cut off from all their friends. It's like, this is cult shit. This is cult behavior. It's genuinely think that this is much worse than a lot of people have sort of considered it to be. It's bizarre. It's utterly bizarre. And I anticipate that at all when I started doing it. I was like, mainly just wanting to talk about its ideological sort of role and its position in the world and why it was bullshit. It's like, fucking hell, man. These folk are bad. These are bad people doing bad shit, and they should be taken down intellectually. I think I think the funniest part though in the whole of the research was when I was looking for clips, and I started looking for and I went through McCaskill's TED Talk again, which is at one point, and this is my favourite bit of the TED Talk. At one point, McCaskill draws like a graph of GDP growth over time, and he takes like the Industrial Revolution as a spike in GDP growth, and he equates that with human progress. Okay. And he takes this trend and he just sort of assumes that it's going to keep going up. This economic growth chart. He's like, look at this economic growth. It's going to keep going. Eventually it can't, but it will keep going. And that human progress chart, because he does this slippage here, human progress chart keeps going for 2 million years. And then like points to random bits on this graph covering 2 million years of a trend that's been a 150-year-old trend, which he's extrapolated as continuing to go up for 2 million years. And he's like, yes, so see all this potential that we've got. And I was like, what the this is the world's biggest scam. No, like, you cannot, I simply do not believe that he believes this. As a philosopher, as anyone with any vague training in any sort of statistical methodology, any sort of research methodology, I simply do not believe that he thinks this, but presents it as something valid to base life choices off of. It's baffling, and clearly he doesn't believe it. The first time I watched the TED Talk, I was sort of half listening because I was like, I probably won't use much of this, and it's annoying me. And if I really listen more, it's going to annoy me more, and I'm going to have a bad day. By that time, I'd already had a bad day that day, so I thought I'd listen to it in full. And fuck me, 2 million year progress, 2 million years of progress, because you don't even need to challenge the assumptions of that to see it's nonsense. I tweeted that on some podcast. Sounds like you could convince Robert Evans to get him on McCaskill's Behind the Bastards episode. I mean, I don't know if I know enough about McCaskill to actually talk about him as a person. I could, I don't know enough about actual people to talk about Behind the Bastards, but hello Adnan, how's it going? We're just talking about EA again because it's terrible. Yeah. Hey, I mean, I do need to do some more podcasts. I need to do better at promoting myself and doing some spreading myself around like a big piece of, I don't know, what gets spread around? Confetti? Bubbles? Why are those the two things that pop into my head? I'm ready for the weekend. The weekend filled with confetti and bubbles. Spread like butter. That makes more sense. That's better. Why couldn't I think of butter? Spread like butter. Yeah, the famous spread. Hummus, fucking jam, any of these things get spread. I went for confetti and bubbles because, I don't know. Let's do another song. Fuck it. Unfortunately, the jack lead of my guitar is clearly broken, so I might have to do a bit of fiddling about until it works. I'll keep chatting away while let's see if I can get this working. Another thing I need to get fixed. I've been on TF before. Years ago. TF were one of the first people to ever talk to me. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's just a wire that needs soldering, but there's no. It probably costs about 20 quid or so. I just need to find a guitar or something to do it. It's just a hassle. I do need to talk to TF about their neoliberalism stuff. There we go. Not sure how long that one lasts. I'm not sure how I feel about it. B flat. It is. That's C major. That's a wee C major for y'all. I am melting. Melting. Even more news. Yeah. I mean, I know that Cody Johnson follows me. I could try and hit that up. Yeah. No, it's a standard C major. I have been listening to Janelle Monáe's new album basically on repeat since it came out. It's so fucking good, man. She's so good. She's absolutely just... It's just so good. I don't know how else to talk about it. It's just so good. So, vibe of the summer 2023, Janelle Monáe. I do have to say, this cider is going down remarkably well. Yeah. So, where were we? Anything else that anyone wants to talk about? Anything that's on the brain? The only thing the only other thing I can think of is how astoundingly annoyed I've been over a certain Labour MP writing an article which I can only describe as one of the most racist articles I've ever read, from someone who's claiming that the purpose of the article is to defend herself from the accusation of being racist. And then she just writes this madly racist article. I was like, oh my god, how do you do this? And nobody is picking up on it. It's been deeply infuriating. Let's talk about that for a bit, while people think about it. Which one now? It was Margaret Hodge. Just Labour things, exactly. So, going around Twitter this week was there was a clip of Margaret Hodge in like 2016 talking to constituents or something about how their area has been going through incredible demographic change, and how she too would be nervous if suddenly all the faces that she was used to seeing suddenly she no longer saw them, and she saw a bunch of new faces. And it's very understandable. And the obvious implication of that is that it's scary that brown people move into the area. Just an obvious implication. So she wrote an article where the subheading was like, the far left are just as bad as the far right, trying to defend herself from this view of her being racist, where she basically... So the easy way to do this is to say either, I wasn't talking about brown people moving into the area, but like people moving in and out of areas, and like families being broken up and things like that. That'd be one way to do it. Another way would be to say, it might have been phrased inelegantly, but the wider context is as me trying to say you shouldn't be racist, and I'm trying to understand. Hi, Sanam. We were just talking about that Margaret Hodge article because it's been in my head, and it's like a woodpecker in my head, and I cannot take it. But what instead happened? What instead happened was that she wrote an article in which she said that the area in which she lived had gone from 90% white to 45% white. And this is an issue for some reason. Why it's not spelled out why this is an issue, but it's implied that that's a legitimate concern for people to have, that an area becoming less white is a legitimate thing for people to be worried about. And she then frames this as like, and Labour governments haven't been listening to concerns. We'll get to the BNP comment in just a second, Sinan. She couches this in things like, the right to buy has made it harder for people to get houses, and people are deprived, and you're like, and this is what justifies people's racism. She's saying that all these people can't get houses, so they see brown people moving into the area and think and the Labour Party needs to respond to this either by making more social housing so that more white people can live in it. There's no what can be said. What can be the implication there? So, and this ends with her saying, so people have been attracted to the BNP because of this demographic change. People have been attracted to the BNP because they're fucking racist. That's it. If there's a demographic change, maybe they were always fucking racist, but I've just decided that now's the time for them to be fucking racist. And also doesn't really speak to the other half of the population at this point who aren't joined in the BNP because they're fucking not white. So why does she not have concerns about those people? It's the white people she has the concerns about. And she sort of rounds up this discussion by saying, joining and supporting the BNP, which for anyone who doesn't know, is a white nationalist, explicitly fascist party. She says supporting this explicitly white supremacist, explicitly fascist party does not make you automatically racist. That sentence itself is one of the most damningly racist things I've read from a Labour MP. And that should be headline news, that someone felt that they could write this in a newspaper to justify to try and prove that they're not a racist. It's every day in which this isn't spoken about by media figures, by anyone challenging either Margaret Hodge herself or Keir Starmer on this Labour MP writing, basically playing cover for support for a fascist party. It's like a woodpecker in my head. It's like tapping away there, going, another day, another of the most extremely racist things I've ever read being passed without comment by the British press. And I was just like, it's horrendous, and it's driving me to the edge. Foxy Fanboy, basically, a Labour MP wrote an article to defend herself from the accusation of being racist, in which she in which she said that it was bad, or implied that it was bad, that
the white population of an area had declined by half, and that we need to talk to people who are concerned about that. And that's like true, you do have to talk to those people in some instances. In some instances, talking is not enough. And then she rounds off the article by saying that supporting the British Nationalist Party, a white supremacist party, does not make you automatically racist, in justification for all these massive dog whistles. And yeah, it is wildly racist. And I can't believe not a single question, not a follow-up, nothing. And part of me what's so like baffling and like about the whole thing is that she had no. I don't think she's planting her flag in the ground and saying, yeah, no, it's because she's on the right of the party, 100%. Yeah, she's on the right of the party, so it doesn't matter. If a left of the party MP did that 100% they'd be out. If anyone on the left of the Labour Party had even said something approaching, it's understandable for people to support the BNP, they'd be out on their ass in an instant, and rightly so, because that's horrendously racist. It was horrendously racist. But like, what gets me is that how do you write a response to people calling you racist, where you can just be like, oh, this is out of context, and the full context is much as exculpatory, and then to make it more racist, as in like, do you not have staff who are like, hey, come on, Margaret, maybe leave out the part where you say supporting the BNP doesn't automatically make you racist. Maybe leave out that part where saying support for one of the most well-known racist and like political parties in a country that has lots of racist political parties. Maybe leave out that bit, because I think it might reflect badly on you. And it's either a sign of just how completely safe she is, and she feels that people are like, yeah, fuck it, doesn't matter. Just let her write that. It's not gonna matter. Hello, Soul Bunny, how's it going? Everyone go and follow Soul Bunny right now. Soul Bunny does great content. And yeah, like how I couldn't believe that this had gone, like Sinan saying, gone past the editors, that this person is saying it's not too bad to support a fascist party. That got past the editors of this newspaper of record. Honestly, it's one of those like bits of UK political discourse that solidifies something deeply like insidious. That's like it solidifies something dark in my heart about the nature of the British, like things that on an intellectual level. Like the media has a selective care for racism. Sure, we know that. Of course they do. That we know that certain, like, if you're a powerful person, you're not going to get much in the way of like checking about, like, until you start breaking, I don't know, some economic rules or something. You know that, but like, it's one of those bits where you're just like, fuck, man, this person can just say this rampant racist shit and have people not only just not mention it, but have people be like, see, this does actually prove that the far left are just like the far right, and they're trying to smear these good liberals, these good centrist liberals. And I was like, what the fuck, man? She just wrote that she just did a bunch of dog whistles for like 500 words, and then said it was fine to join the or support the BNP. What? I'm so tired. I genuinely like. That's not someone who should be, an MP, basically. I think she wants people to know she believes this, but to admit your racism in the UK is also to disavow it. I feel like that's how we end up with contradictory articles like this. Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre. I basically think that she doesn't think that what she's doing is racist, and that is often a sign of someone who's being incredibly racist. Like, she doesn't consider it racist to consider that a population going from 90% white to 45% white, she doesn't think it's racist to think that constitutes a problem, when of course that's racist. And she doesn't think it's racist to then say, oh, I don't think it's racist that these people think this is a problem. That's also clearly racist. And it's just like, fuck me, man. These are the people that rule us. These are our rulers. And they're just sludge people. Climbing out of the sewers to fucking spew sludge all over the pages of the press until they think that... Until everything gets worse. Oh man, we need to pull up. This is a nosedive. I was trying to get some fun summer vibes going. This is what happens when I talk about Labour Party politics. This is why I didn't want this. That's why it's got like a woodpecker in my brain, because I don't want... And there's nothing I can do about how terrible this is in this particular moment. It's just awful. Slam the plane right into the earth. Oh. What do you mean by that? Yeah. There was a funny little, or you can be upbeat. Yep, Sinan, do you want to come on the stream? I think we can get you on the stream. I think I've got you on Discord. I know how to do this, right? Alright, yeah, let's get you on. Okay. I think I know how to do this. Let's see. I need to find you on Discord first. There you go. Okay, so I think what I can do is just call this. I think I have a... And I just... There we go, start video call. I've started a video call.
Oh, is it a video call?
Oh, I mean, yeah, come on with no video, that's fine. That makes it easier for me. Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm there, and my hair is massive, and also I need to make sure part of the shirt doesn't appear on camera because it will cause problems. Yeah, yeah. I feel you. It's the same for me. I just need to make sure the bottom part of the shirt, because it's got tits on it. So, because of course, the time I come on is the time I wear the behemoth shirt.
There we go. That should be my audio back.
Okay.
There we go. So Sinan's on. My audio's back.
Yep.
Oh God, I'm so fucking good at my job.
Yeah. See, this is why I don't do people jumping on in the middle of the streams usually.
Can you remember how to crop the thing?
I think it's either Shift or Alt, and then you move it up.
I'm quiet. There we go. I should be louder now.
I hope I'm not quiet.
That should be better now. There we go. Okay, let's try Alt. Let's see if that works. I have been meaning to get more. No. God. I have been meaning to get more guests on, but like, you can see how good I am.
Yeah, I'm watching the thing muted and just seeing it unfold.
Oh, there's another you there.
Yeah. It's good.
Oh, there you go. Hi.
Hey, yes.
How's it going?
I'm good. I just got done with one of my streams.
Oh, nice.
I was playing Crusader Kings and I kept having civil wars and then I got crusaded upon, which was great.
I have a very passing I remember Crusader Kings from lockdowns and watching basically you stream and being like, I don't understand what this is.
No one understands it, which is why I have to make it as ridiculous as possible whenever I play it.
Yeah, that makes sense. The only thing I've been playing recently is apart from one instance where we can talk about this. I emotionally devastated someone at Mario Kart last week.
I heard.
Oh God, it nourished my fucking soul. But aside from that, I've been playing the Zelda game just as when I can, which is not enough. I'm too busy. I'm like, I want to play Zelda, but I've got stuff to do. So, you want to be upbeat?
Yeah, I don't know. I did just do a video about optimism, and I love that I offered to come on and just like slam the plane into the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Margaret Hodge is being replaced by possibly an even worse person as the Labour candidate. It's so good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's I had to talk about it on stream like last week. He was I think it was that he said he's a white guy, just to be clear, and he's the head of Barking and Dagenham Council, and he said he had the worst tan possible for a black man.
Sorry, can you go back? He's a white man, and what was the joke?
So he joked that he had the worst tan possible for a black man during the selection in which he was running against a black woman for the seat.
I don't understand what the joke is.
Yeah, well, I think it's that he's very white. I don't...
Man, that's offensive in several ways. But
yes.
Also, just like get better jokes.
There's also
or
more
don't make
about
jokes.
It.
Oh, Christ.
Because it turns out he was addressing an audience at a Black History Month event, and he said that he used to do swing dance and loved jiggling about. In fact, here's a direct quote: "But I have the passion and the rhythm of the African and the Caribbean." From that event, from the Black History Month event.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Is going on in the Labour Party?
Yeah, it's even better because this I know a lot about this guy because I had to do like a quick research on him on stream last week. He's also the guy who wants to evict people if their kids don't snitch on knife crime.
Oh, it's this guy.
It's the same guy. It's this. And
oh my God.
I sort of, as a throwaway joke, said, "Oh well, based on the like knife crime thing, I was like, well, he probably has some pretty choice views on minorities." And then I googled him and found those things immediately, and I was like, yes, good.
Oh my God.
I love being right.
For anyone who doesn't know, this is a quote rising star within the Labour Party, who's arguing that if a child does not tell the police about any information about knife crime, then they can then be evicted from their house, and their family can be evicted from their house. Is that it?
Yeah, well, basically he said we're going to have to start looking at tenancy agreements, which is, the implication is that they're going to start evicting people from their houses, which is an insane policy. It's a horrible policy. Yeah, knife crime. Sorry, I have an accent, more of an accent than John, even. I guess he.
You really fucking optimismed up this place.
Yeah, I
me.
do a video about optimism, leave it immediately to tell the worst shit imaginable to people, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
Immediately abandoned all hope.
I mean, I don't pay attention to the news all that much these days.
It's a good idea, to be honest.
Has that been reported widely in the news?
The knife crime. Well, the eviction thing was reported in the Guardian, and that was about it. But you can imagine how that was reported. And the other thing, the sort of horrible tan joke was reported at the time. They basically were like, some say it's factionalism, some say it's just a bad joke. So who's to say who's right or wrong?
The horrible tan joke is like the least racist of those three jokes.
Yeah,
like,
I mean
that's like 1950s.
Yeah,
look who's coming to dinner style racism.
Yeah, I looked it up when I on stream, and I was like, this is like old racism. This is like shit that I would be surprised to encounter from like my parents. Not that my parents are racist, but like people of my parents' age, I would have been confused to have encountered it, because it's just an alien form of racism now.
There's an episode of Community where they go into or like it's a fake clip show where one of the clips is them going into an old-timey Western village and then getting chased out by a guy in sort of comical red overpants, like an old West-timey prospector, and like all the white characters are like, oh, that was wonderful, and Donald Glover and Troy and Abed are like, that guy was old school racist. We found new ways to hate ourselves because of this guy's old school racism. And that's like, fucking hell, this guy's really doing the old time prospector racism.
But if you were wondering, Margaret Hodge isn't going to be an MP anymore after the next election, which is good. The bad news is she's being replaced by this guy.
She's being replaced by an old-timey prospector from the Old West.
Yeah. So there you go. If you, just in case you think it couldn't get worse.
I mean, I did think it could get worse. The thing is, I know it can get worse. It's just every time you're faced with it getting worse, you're like, fuck me, it's getting worse. The only thing that's holding me together right now is the vanguard of orcas. And
yes,
I
love the orcas.
I'm like this close to buying a scuba suit and being like, can I join? Can I join your orca Bolshevism? Like,
I'm a big fan of the orcas right now. Just really interesting how they learn these behaviors from each other. That's what I love learning about orcas. Yeah, I was like, kind of, I was reading up about the orcas, and it was like they have some sort of like primitive form of culture between them, and I'm like, that's really cool.
It's so cool.
That is very cool.
And it's so
if their culture is destroying people's private yachts, well, who am I to say that's wrong?
Yeah, exactly. And like the way of like they've never hurt a human in like the wild before, and now because an older matriarch got hit with a propeller, they're like, yeah, we're gonna take these fuckers down. We're gonna wear these propellers as hats, as trophies for our fucking victories. And it's very clear that and this is my headcanon, and I'm saying it's very clear, that what's happened is a former peaceful liberal branch of orca leadership has been overthrown, and the radical vanguard has taken hold, and we are lucky that they're not attacking humans yet, because a lot of us fucking deserve it.
That's right, yeah. And yeah, they do kill for fun, so,
Yeah. And like, who's to say if tipping over a rich person's yacht and orcas tearing them apart for fun is good or not. I certainly wouldn't say anything that would be against the conditions of YouTube's policies on this.
No. And I certainly wouldn't. No, I've never violated YouTube's policies on my videos.
And I never would, because I respect the platform too much.
Sorry, I should have let you finish before I laughed. Like, genuinely couldn't stop myself.
Yeah.
Oh no. But yeah, I just kind of barged in here wanting to chat shit.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've been meaning to, like I say, I've been meaning to get more actual like guests on instead of it just being me fucking about for 3 hours and getting progressively drunk.
Because the thing is, if you don't stream, it gets very tiring after a certain point.
Yeah.
Like, just to keep doing it and keep. If you're drinking, it's worse. Like, it's much worse. Like,
I find the opposite. I find if I can just keep going if I've had a few drinks.
I think there's like a tipping point though where it just becomes because I used to, well, I might do again. I did cocktail making streams on my Twitch, and the thing about cocktails is they are not like portioned out for sensible drinking, because you're not meant to drink like 8 of them in 3 hours.
No.
Which is what I would do. I would make 8 cocktails in 3 hours, see if they were any good, and then wonder why I was so drunk.
Yeah. I mean, the wine is good because it gives you like a time of how long you've been going for, and like you have an end point, like finishing the wine. It's good. And I will say I did just finish reading a book on like the alcohol industry, which included a whole load of the detrimental health impacts of alcohol, which I was like, oh god. But also,
I don't need to hear that.
Yeah.
Don't need to hear it.
I read that on my way to a wedding.
That's such a bad way to prime yourself for the wedding.
I was on the train and I was like reading this thing and I just went, oh god. And then like my family went, what is it, John? And I was like, I'm not gonna tell you. You don't want to know. Just we'll enjoy our night.
Yeah, I did see this comment just now. Hopefully John never does a drinking stream where the more money he gets, the more he drinks, and we almost give him alcohol poisoning. That did almost happen on my stream. I didn't get alcohol poisoning. I wasn't that drunk. But that was the conceit of one of my streams, and it did not work very well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the John the Duncan drinking game is just drinking when he says neoliberalism or genocide. What a brand I have created. What?
Well, at least it's like consistent and it works, and it's interesting. In this, the things you make are interesting and good. Actually, that's nice. Even if it's bleak, it's good.
Yeah, man, get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I did almost get on different things are different in this last video, because like an obvious point of EA effective altruism is like assuming that different discrete categories are comparable, which is not true, and so there's a very easy different things are different to have to go in there, but then I'd be falling into the trap of critiquing their sort of methodology, and they'd just be like, well, think of a better methodology. It's like, you won't, will you fuckers?
Nah, like, look, I did physics at uni. Thinking of a better methodology, you leave that to as late as possible. Don't worry about it.
On that drinking note, I do have to run and get another drink.
Okay, you go get another drink. Okay.
Entertain the chat and try not to tag my channel while I'm going.
I won't. I promise. Like, I'm really well behaved on other people's things. It's just my stuff where I act like a lunatic. Anyway, chat, how are we doing? Are we good? Are we having a nice time? Are we, I feel like the babysitter now. I'm babysitting John's chat. This is not a position I ever want to be in. So people are making a bingo game for John's videos. Ooh. Yeah. It's like visiting your friend's house and trying to impress their mum. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Because this is not my usual stream audience. They're used to the various brainworms that I have, and so they're like, well, that's fine, you know, they'll I can't like reach for my usual like reflex jokes, which because I'm not sure how they'll play in this crowd. So I have to tread a little lightly, and also I'm not sure what you can get away with on YouTube as much, because I heavily edit my videos around a lot of colorful commentary. Ate a cinnamon roll and had a coffee. Nice. Can we step and play video games? You can do whatever you like when John's not here. You can play video games. I often do. I actually probably need to play video games more. So how about that Boris Johnson resignation? Just like, he'll be back. He'll be back. I give him 12 months at most before he's back. I can't get excited about Boris Johnson resigning, because the thing about that is that a lot of the people who are like, oh, well, we knew all along Boris Johnson was terrible, are the same people who were doing everything in their power to make sure he won the 2019 election. So I'm like, yeah, you knew at the time. It didn't help anyone, did it? And they're like, well, how were we meant to know there would be a pandemic? And I was like, that's not really the point. Behind like, no, not supporting the obviously unfit buffoon and propelling him into office. But there you go.
Oh, we talk about
Boris Johnson. Yeah.
Genuinely, when he was like, oh, gonna need to resign, I genuinely forgot he was still an MP.
Yeah, I kind of just like assumed he'd basically given up the job anyway.
Yeah,
that, like he wasn't doing it anyway. Like former prime ministers do stick around sometimes, but Boris Johnson does not have he's not Theresa May.
I mean,
like,
he could have been dead, and I would have been like, all right, yeah, sure, he's dead.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, like he'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some shit to do, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's gonna really try and cause some problems on the way out. And you know what? Fair enough. If I had been like told from day one that I was a child of destiny, and then had the people of the quality of Rishi Sunak basically end that path, I'd be messing stuff up on the way out.
It is interesting how like the different like segments of like rich pieces of shit have been like cycling through the Tory leadership. With like David Cameron being that style of like banker posh boy with aesthetics of progressivism, followed by like an actual automaton powered by, I'm assuming, rats, that was Theresa May. And then Boris Johnson's old school kind of posh provocateur kind of bullshit for the Brexit era, and now the soulless cyber retraining cyber finance capital guy for like, he wants to be in Silicon Valley, doesn't he? Rishi Sunak.
He wants to be a tech bro in California, but you've missed out the best one, which was Liz Truss.
Oh, I forgot about Liz Truss.
Who was the greatest prime minister we'd had from the Tory party. Like, she's off. She went off to Taiwan, which is obviously, like, in theory, former British prime minister visits Taiwan is like a huge problem. Yeah. Like, it is a huge controversy, and it's all of this. But the thing is, the Chinese basically didn't respond after she'd left, because they couldn't take her seriously as a concept.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like, how are you gonna decide what's a major political move when your 12-week-old prime minister?
Yeah, 45 days. It's like not even 12 weeks, and she stole a bunch of bathrobes on the way out. Iconic.
I would do
honest.
that. If I was prime minister, for what I assume would be at most 45 days before the army come in and remove me, I would definitely take the towels with me.
Yeah, absolutely. They're nice towels, I hear.
I enjoy every like fucking few weeks there is a contingent of a type of person who's like, oh, we on the left shouldn't be celebrating Liz Truss being removed from office because it's actually bad that the financial markets can dictate who's prime minister. And you're like, yeah, the financial markets always dictated who's prime minister. We
Yeah,
understand.
like nothing has
this.
changed. Yeah, we're all on the same page. It's funny.
The difference between this time and all the other times is that this time the existential dread came with like a side of hilarity, which is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it really took the edge off.
Yeah.
And also, to be honest, like, the fact that for 45 days Liz Truss was prime minister is fantastic.
It's amazing.
The fact that this country could produce this.
The woman who was previously most famous for being mad at cheese.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and the way she delivered the cheese line was terrible too. Like, it was all obvious what was gonna happen.
Yeah. What a performer. I was gonna say I couldn't be that passionate about cheese, and I know for a fact that's untrue.
Yeah. Man, I have to so I have a video coming up next month, which is about basically trying to look at the filters that are applied to British politicians that make them all like that, but capital L, capital T.
Yep.
And I'm doing a compilation of like really like I'm gonna make it look like a horror film of like really just like awkward and terrible speeches from British politicians and like horrible press moments.
Yeah.
And I thought I had to get a Liz Truss in there. I was like, it's too obvious though. I want to get some lesser known.
You gotta get
horribly awkward moments in there.
You gotta build up to it. You got to like build up to a crescendo where there she is, because you can't.
Yeah.
do it without her. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. She has to be in it. I think I think I start with like Ian Duncan Smith's horrible, quiet man raw speech, and I have like
yes.
I have Ed Davies smashing through the blue wall. That's probably the least embarrassing of the ones that I've got. I've got Keir Starmer's change the things that need to be changed, and that is the change I will bring about moment. Which, by the way, is an accurate quote. I've not exaggerated. That is what he said.
Twirling towards the future.
It's so good.
Surely Ed Miliband's "Hell yeah, I'm tough enough."
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that was the first one that I got told I had to put in.
Yeah.
A power pose best of. It's been. I will reference the power pose.
For anyone who doesn't know, a power pose. There was a trend for about like 3 years when all these Tory politicians would. I don't know who told them to do this. They would come out on stage and they would like strike this pose. I'm gonna show it to you. I'll get up and show it to you.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
It's like you're Cristiano Ronaldo about to take a free kick. I don't know if there's many sports heads in the chat, but you will know what I mean. Like, you're about to take a free kick. And also, another thing they did a lot was the thumb of power. This really awkward trained gesture that you do, where it's meant to be non-aggressive but assertive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was explaining the thumb of power to them as well. The awkward, it's so obviously trained that it makes it about 1 million times more awkward. And it doesn't help that, like, because of the filters applied to British politicians, that they're all just like horrible.
Yeah.
They like there is a person who, there is a type of person who can be media trained and not seem so obviously media trained, but none of them are in the British Parliament.
No.
Like, precisely none of them.
I mean, it's because they're all people who were massive nerds at their private school, which is, being a nerd at private school and then being a nerd when they went to do PPE at Oxbridge. So they've obviously got no charisma. And so they're being trained in how to be. It's like trying to train a rock to be charismatic. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's training a rock to persuade someone to give you a discount.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. This is D&D anecdote waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the video is gonna be good. I'm gonna have a really fun time writing this one.
A bard character who goes around trying to convince every village he goes to that his rock should be their mayor.
I was planning to do a stream actually where I was going to play City Skylines 2 when it came out, and I would just elect a random member of the chat to be the mayor and do whatever they wanted.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I'm imagining that will turn out.
Yeah, what was your optimism video about? What was the whole thing there?
It was like a personal thing about, basically I'd watched a bunch of videos a while ago where people were talking about, like, their visions of like utopian societies and revolutionary optimism and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't really have anything to add on that front, because my vision of utopia is going to be really boring. And it's just gonna be like everything works and it's fine. Like I don't think I could have articulated that entertainingly. I didn't have anything like big brain to add on revolution optimism. So I was like, okay, but then why am I an optimist? Because I must be in some way. And I come across like a miserable bastard a lot of the time. And I'm like, but I'm not. It just comes across that way sometimes in the videos. And I was like, you know what? Let's try something a bit different and try and be positive. And yet I still managed to goad myself into doing a massive rant about the trains in the UK.
Yeah.
I goaded myself into it. But actually, I think what I have to do now, John, is I have to bounce.
All right.
Because, someone has to go to sleep early today. And so I have to go. But thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks
and
for coming.
You, chat. You were great. I'll be back on, like, for real, you know, in an arranged fashion at some point.
I'm sure.
I would assume. Yeah. Anyway,
right.
I'm going to disconnect and I will catch everyone in the chat because I'll still be hanging out in there.
Have a good one.
See you, everyone.
All right. For anyone who doesn't already, follow Sinan on SK the Crusader on Twitch. Yeah. Well, should we get another tune on the go, and then we can chat about something else. That was a nice bit of reprieve from the misery. Despite the rocky start. That's nice. That's some nice, fun summery tunes. I have thought of something else that has annoyed me. It's less super depressing, and more just like John rants about Arab Bastani again. So anyone who Dr. Bastani time, yeah. So our esteemed left-wing public intellectual Adam Bastani has tweeted, which is never a good start when Adam Bastani tweets. Unfortunately, yes, the thought leaders have led. They haven't thought, unfortunately, but they have been leading. And he has tweeted out, he quote tweeted a thread by someone who has previously done a documentary about how about the truth of the Michael Brown case and all that bollocks. Basically, a massive racist. This guy had done this thread about how the police in San Francisco, how there's a crime wave in San Francisco, and the police have been defanged and can't deal with it. And Bastani tweeted this, being like, "This is a really important thread, which isn't. It's not moralizing to say that there is a crime wave in San Francisco. And first of all, why the fuck do you care, man? Why is this your thing that you're tweeting about San Francisco's police? Like, presumably, as a British columnist, essentially, it's what they are now. Presumably, you think that this has relevance to the British situation. It's not true, and it doesn't. But yeah, included in this thread was the guy saying, was the Blue Lives Matter journalist, documentary maker, whatever, saying, the San Francisco police have been totally defanged. So the implication being that Arab Bastani thinks that the American police service should be refanged, as if their fangs are not still there and in use, and also by implication that the British police also need to be fanged to some greater degree. So that was a fun little bit of Adam Bastani ness that happened today. That it was something I was going to talk about as well, regarding Bastani and the fully automated luxury communism-ness. Because this is something that I mentioned this in the video, in the effective altruism video. I didn't quite manage to get to Officer Bastani quite. I don't want vampire police. Well, maybe we could get vampire. Actually, yeah, vampire police, because the police can't get into your house unless you invite. The vampires can't get into your house unless you invite them. Just don't invite the police in, and they can't get in. I mean, it makes going out at night harder, but it makes going out in the daytime much better. I feel like we can just go up to the Met, and we can open up some big sunroofs in the Met, and in this fictional scenario, deal with all the vampires that are in the Met. Again, I respect YouTube as a platform and would never advocate anything. I would never advocate anything. It doesn't matter what it is, I wouldn't advocate it. But if there were vampires, I would encourage them to be burnt alive by the purifying light of the sun. And they also wouldn't be allowed in your house. So, yeah, vampire police. And we'd maybe have a few months of difficult times at night. Do it in summer when vampire police in the winter, especially in Scotland. That'd be hellish. They'd be everywhere. In the summer, they've barely got any time at all. I think we could work this out. I think we could do it. I'm fully invested in vampire policemen. Fuck, what was I saying before I got derailed by vampire police? Yes, this was it. So one of the things about effective altruism is this, and it has to do this because how else is it going to exist? The tech fetishism. It has this idea of like things can be solved through markets, global warming, and things can obviously be solved through things like carbon credits and through market solutions and tech innovation. And part of the increase in GDP is associated with tech innovation, which will make lives so much easier. And that's very, very similar. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Bastani hasn't spoken about it or had them on a podcast at some point. Hello, Harker, how's it going? Hasn't had them on a podcast or talked to them or talked about them recently. Because he's well into that shit as well. The connection between Bastani and long-termism and effective altruism is the tech fetishism and the fact that they're both TED Talk philosophies. That is it. They're 100% TED Talk philosophies. And yeah, it's interesting. Bastani's view of, and I suspect this is also the case for effective altruism, is that they don't see technology as being a product of the specific historical social relations through which it emerges, but rather see it as like just a bubbled form of innovation. Oh, there's innovation. This innovation happened. Like, for example, McCaskill talks about how the Industrial Revolution led to a massive amount of GDP growth because of this new technology. That's not really what happened, though, is it? And he sort of puts technology at the genesis point of GDP growth, which is really similar to what Bastani does when he talks about like technology being the thing that precipitates changes and like wide-scale societal changes. When of course like the reality of the situation is that the Industrial Revolution happened due to the emergent social relations of capitalist accumulation. Can I explain what TED Talk philosophy means? Well, beyond just saying that it's the sort of philosophy that 100% gets its like lift off from TED Talk, like the effective altruism gained its like big push from William McCaskill's TED Talk. It's just like because the TED Talk format necessitates a very aesthetic and superficial understanding. You can't really get deep into things, and the people that TED asks to like that are asked to do TED Talks. Is there a man called Ted? Who's the person? Is it TED? Are they the organizations? Whatever. Whoever goes on TED Talks, the people who are asked on are generally very, very liberal. They have very sort of like shallow like aesthetic philosophies. TED is an acronym for what? Tech, education, devices? Yeah, sorry, I was chewing ice. This is now my ASMR chewing ice stream. Yeah, I mean it was a throwaway line, just slagging them off as well. Where's my dialect from? South of Edinburgh. I sort of got the Edinburgh accent. Probably with a bit mix of Glasgow in there, because I was in Glasgow for ages. Yeah. Technology, entertainment, design. Okay. That sucks. I'm against TED Talk, fundamentally. Watch, 5 years' time I'll get a TED Talk and I will recant that immediately. What would my TED Talk be in? What would I do a TED Talk on? Because all these TED Talks, they have to be sort of inspirational in a way. Like, I've got something important that we can do. And it has to be catered to a liberal audience. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do a TED Talk, I'm afraid. There's that TED Talk, like, cadence. Like, when we first started examining this problem, we came across something that was rather quite fascinating. And if you look at the slide, you can see that the numbers of shits this dog takes increase exponentially as we feed it laxative. And that is quite something. I think you'll agree. Maybe that's what my TED Talk will be about. Dog laxatives. It'd be more informative than a lot of TED Talks are. To be honest, I get 5 minutes and I say the word fuck, and then I get like that'd be my biggest problem, is just not saying the word fuck. We could have infinite if we and that's the thing. If we take this trend in dog poop to laxative and extrapolate it, we can see something quite extraordinary. With increasing the dose of laxative, we can get infinite dog poop. And just think what we could do with that. We could fertilize the entire planet. We could solve global health. For just $50 a month to my foundation, Dog Laxatives for Change, you could be part of the change that we need to save the world. Thank you. That's my TED Talk. Assertive and not aggressive, and it doesn't not invite you to invest in dog laxatives for change. This is dog laxatives. Yeah, hashtag DL for C. This is happening. This is how we save the world. This is how we fix everything. There's just one dog, and we're only using the one dog, by the way, so it is limited to that one dog. The dog will be cared for. I don't want any of you animal rights people trying to stop this dog from taking its laxatives and saving the world. The dog will be cared for, the dog will be loved, and the dog will be part of saving the world. This is not how I was thinking this stream was gonna go. This should not be taken out of context. What could we do with infinite dog shits? I don't know, but TED Talk seems to be a method of distribution. Hey! Woo! How does the UK left feel about Bastani in general? I mean, I don't speak for the UK left. I can just say he fucks me off, and he fucks off a lot of people I know, because he talks shite. That's all I can say. I can't say about the UK left in general. Unfortunately, I don't know us all. Maybe I should work harder. Yeah, he is a fanny. He is a fanny. That's what I'll say. And for these reasons, I will likely not get invited on Nevada media, despite the fact I know like a good 2 or 3 of the folk who work for Nevada. Yeah, his book was shite, man. Oh man, I know some. Oh god. So then another time I'm going to tell you some gossip. I'm not going to tell it on the stream. Yeah, he's very I mean, I don't even know if he's Jacobin. He's Jacobin. I mean, I don't like Jacobin either. I think Jacobin's shite. And unless they want to publish one of my articles for money, in which case I need to eat. But yeah, Jacobin are also shite. But I think they're shite in a sort of distinct way. I think the Jacobin are all like they're very workerist. They're very narrow understanding of like of global capitalism. They always have their thing like that Chevy article about how there's no such thing as a labour aristocracy, and they're always doing very narrowly workerist things. I don't think that's quite Bastani. I think Bastani's much more. I mean, I just think he is more like kind of tech bro-ish. He's I'm just kind of contrarian. I mean, yeah, they'll print Bastani. I just think his vibe is in general is slightly different from Jacobin's vibe generally. To be honest, I think Jacobin's vibe generally has a better understanding of, and again, they have a better understanding, but a better understanding of Marxism than yeah. I just with the stuff he was posting today, it felt very spiked. It felt like it was someone on a spiked trajectory. For those that don't know, Spiked is a fascinating magazine in the UK, where it was previously like a kind of contrarian left-wing magazine called was it called Marxism Today or something. And then in the early 90s, it did a bunch of genocide denial because, you know, there's lots of speculation that during the Cold War, the things that would come together to form Marxism Today were MI5 assets, because MI5 funded a bunch of fronts of different radical sort of papers and stuff to sow discord among left-wing communities and blah 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 blah. And there's like speculation that Marxism Today was one of them. But these days, Jacobin is anarchist Barry and a lot of them. Oh yeah. We can talk about TYT. I mean, yeah. So they had there's speculation that they were kind of a front, and then in the 90s they started forming this magazine. And as that magazine has grown, it's become this like weird, it's a far right-wing magazine, but it uses this aesthetic of being left-wing, and decreasingly so. But it used to do it more, where like the racism that they do is in service of like the true working class of Britain, and anyone who disagrees are like the chattering classes, the liberal bourgeois chattering classes who don't understand the needs of the true white working class, basically. And it feels sometimes that Bastani is on that route. I'm not sure he would ever actually publish in Spiked because it's such a joke now. But I feel like his vibe is getting there, unfortunately. Yeah, man, Anna Kaspari and stuff is, and TWT has always been kind of lib shite. Just as it's interesting to see with the TYT stuff on as Anna Kasparian, is that how you pronounce her name? Has fully come out, just like full transphobe, and seeing the clefts in that sort of side of US left progressive media commentary, and I've been like impressed with Emma from what's his name? Sam Cedars talk show. And how she's been taking a very firm and very good hard line against it. That's and I know that they are like friends, and it's good to see that there are some people, majority report, that's it. And it's good to see that there are like some people who are just fully will be like, yeah, absolutely fuck you for saying this. Stop saying this. This is wrong. It's bullshit. It's harmful. Your half measures, half talk way of doing it. I started talking to Ryan Grimm the other day. He was doing a bunch of half measure, half talk about trans women in sports and some talking some asinine bullshit about it. And she was like, hey, fuck you. Don't talk like this. This is obviously horseshit. And that's nice. There's I mean, it's sad that there's so few, and sad that folks in the sort of progressive sphere are still so transphobic. But at least it's nice to see someone. And what is probably the single outside of Hassan Piker, the single biggest like progressive internet space doing it. But yeah, fuck TYT. I keep saying TWT, which, you know, is a different thing, and don't fuck TWT. You know, O'Neill from Milo's articles on Trash Future. Yeah, my favourite thing about... So Brendan O'Neill is this figure who writes for Spiked, and is always writing articles like... the chattering wokerati of the London metropolitan liberal elites are saying that they want uncontrolled immigration and a breakdown of the entire family unit. But we know that working class people, the workers of this country, stand up for traditional values and things like that. And yeah, every time the whole of left-wing Twitter in the UK is blocked by Spiked and Brendan O'Neill, because every time he would post, underneath the tweets, he has a big bald head. Underneath the tweets of his posts would just be Photoshop after Photoshop after Photoshop after Photoshop of people expanding his big bald head and putting it on different things. My personal one was Donkey Kong eating a banana, and the banana was Brendan O'Neill's head. That was my one. There was one that was the bat signal, but it was just Brendan O'Neill's head, and he got so bullied by it. This piece of shit got so bullied by it that he walks everywhere with a cap on now, which is beautiful to me. That a group of people can come together and bully a horrendous piece of shit like that so hard, and it really makes you proud, because fuck that guy. Some people have this be nice mentality to your enemies.
Alright, what's going on in chat? Real bisexual vibes. Yeah, still one of the funniest things I think on YouTube for me was that coming out video where like half of the comments are just, oh, we knew, we didn't realize that it was a secret. It's just there's something affirming about that. Anything on the mind, chat? Anything on the brain that's causing consternation or wanting to chat about? Currently doing some reading about yeah, it's nice, isn't it? The melting is because of the weather. That is, yep, that's basically it. It has cooled down a bit though. I'm Bastani in the Philly. You've just missed it, Malika. We've just been talking about the Anand Bastani, talking about fully automated luxury communism. We did that before the old guitar break. Thank you for stopping by, Jamie. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I've started doing the reading for the next video, which I'm going to get out before. Oh man, I'm gonna change this song because that little synth line is getting on my nerves. Because yeah, I'm gonna get it out because I want to get it out before the end of Pride Month because it is about how Shrek is queer. I'm gonna make this. I want this to be a spiritual sequel to the Chicken Run video, in that it's half shitpost and half serious. Sorry, we're gonna have to go back to the guitar because that guitar line's annoying me. Just get some like standard disco on the go or something. I should get this guitar fixed before the next stream. Alright, we're just going to keep talking while I try and get this guitar to work. Yeah, so, yeah, next video is going to be on how Shrek 2 is a queer masterpiece, because it is. Oh, did I see I didn't see the Rosie Duffield nonsense, unfortunately. Yeah, the trans theme, Harka, we're working on, that's table stakes. The Shrek is trans, like the original Shrek film is trans. We all know this. This is table stakes. Nothing new there. Obvious. What we're doing in Shrek 2 is that Shrek 2 is fundamentally and entirely queer. Everything about it. And not just trans, but like queer in general. And I have done a wee search for literature, and what I can say is that there is a lot of literature about how Shrek is queer. There is a lot. We've not spoken about Brendan Lee Mulligan's drag look. I am excited about that new. Fuck, this guitar's fucked. I have been enjoying the new Dimension 20 trailer. For anyone who missed it, it's about drag. It's a Dungeons and Drag, which is fun. Oh my god.
Sorry. Do I think that the human rights framework is irredeemably Eurocentric? Okay, so there's going to be no more music tonight because I just took out because the lead jack just fell through the guitar. Let's see. Okay, so we've got some music for the background. Some saved music. Yeah, that's fucked. What was I talking about? What do I think of human rights as an irredeemably Eurocentric framework? I mean, I think that it's... I mean, I'm not sure it's as simple as that. The as Eurocentric as any of these frameworks often are, and there is a lot about it that is Eurocentric, and there's lots of uses and manifestations of it that's Eurocentric. But even the international legal framework for it, while being Eurocentric, because the international legal code is naturally Eurocentric, as is the case with international law as is written, it's more radical as is written than as is enacted. And that's in large part due to massive influence from global south and communist states at the time. And that's just talking about the legal framework. And then there's wide uses of it, which have been throughout global south, non-European situations to use human rights as a narrow tool to pursue particular interests. And I wouldn't say like if I would never advocate for human rights as an all-encompassing framework, because I don't think that's useful. But the use of it as a tool, whether it's irredeemably Eurocentric or not, is less important to me than is it useful for the groups who have used it. And there are many such cases where the groups who have used it have found it useful. And they haven't been co-opted within the structures of international legal hegemony when they've used it, and that's for some specific reasons and some very self-conscious reasons from the people who use those frameworks. Specifically, the way that they often use it is to protect their own land, and there's lots of indigenous groups who've used the human rights framework to their advantage in particular contexts, without ever saying that this is how everyone should live via a framework structured by the ideological limits of human rights. But they've still used it as a tool, and often when you're talking to, like, if you talk to indigenous groups who use it, and you're like, is this not find this Eurocentric? And they're like, this thing has helped us, and we're has helped us more than a lot of other tools at our disposal. So to us, it doesn't really matter. And that's kind of the approach I take. Oh, comparative rights. Yeah, this is a main problem with any sort of rights discourse, and this is why I would never advocate human rights or any kind of rights discourse as a specific frame to always use, because you're going to get clash of rights stuff, and it's never useful to do clash of rights stuff. The most famous sort of example of clash of rights thing is when people start talking about the right to free speech, and they start talking about how, oh, my right to free speech is being infringed by this other person's right to not be, I don't know, harassed. And if you analyze these things on just like the level of competing rights, you're going to get nowhere. So they can't be used in that way. They can't be used effectively in that way. They can only be used to uphold whichever specific power structure carries the most force at that particular time. Rights are just the promise of not being violent. I don't think that's true. I think that's a narrow sort of legalistic interpretation of rights. And there's a much wider sort of much wider, more diverse history, philosophy, practice around rights, more than just this sort of legalistic view of them being like ways to withhold the state from being violent, even within the legal human rights regime. This is the side of my research that I just talk about a lot less on this channel, frankly, because I find it slightly less interesting. So I don't. Yeah. So that's not part that I use. That's not. I don't talk about it hugely. There can be ways in which rights are violent. There can be ways in which. What are they outside of a legalistic framework? Any number of things. Rights are used outside of a legalistic framework. The most sort of common framework of rights that I sort of talk about in my research is much more discursive and praxeological. They use rights as an organizing tool to claim a decommodification of a particular asset. So, is claiming a right to housing as a form of arguing against housing as an asset, about stopping violence. I mean, perhaps to a degree in the sort of indirect violence of indirect social violence, but I think that's more extended and extensive understanding of rights beyond what we tend to understand when we say that rights are about stopping violence. They talk about stopping state violence generally in that sort of framework. Going back to sort of John Lockean views of rights there. There's a serious issue with the epistemology of rights as a knowledge power in its Hobbesian frame, in my opinion. I would think that the more limiting sort of aspect would be in its John Lockean. It's more a lot of the more common lineage is specifically anti-Hobbesian, much more indebted to sort of John Locke's style of liberalism than Thomas Hobbes. The rights in that case are to withhold the state violence that Hobbes kind of talks about. But I don't think that is. I think that to say that so forcefully is ironically quite anti-Foucauldian kind of view of the various ways in which knowledge power as a concept is imbued through things like rights. The problem with free speech whiners is that they haven't stopped to consider the other party is due the same free speech to tell them they're wrong. I mean, the main problem with people when they talk about free speech is they have a very limited understanding of what free speech is, and they have no systemic analysis of what are the things that's... If you're concerned about speech, and especially within the context of transphobia, where we're talking about it and where a lot of the talk about it happens these days, is that they don't consider that the people with the most power are the transphobes, and it's not their speech that is being infringed upon via the structures of parliament, of universities, of schools, of jobs, of all this stuff which is systemically stopping various oppressed groups, including trans people, from being able to speak publicly about the oppression they face. That is the problem with free speech people. And that's the problem, always the problem with free speech arguments, is that no one considers the materiality of speech, unfortunately. What did I study in uni PhD? I did I did a politics undergrad, then a master's in human rights and international politics, and now my PhD's in sort of political sociology, looking at how different social movements use human rights and whether they find it useful and what the purpose of that is, basically. Any opinion on religion's role in the framing of rights, both from a legalistic and pragmatic theme of work? I don't have a strong sort of theory of the role of religion within the framing of rights, really. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much I can say about that. Do you think that sovereignty, even in more liberatory contexts, vis-a-vis indigenous and decolonial discourses, should be questioned given the urgency of climate chaos? I mean, I think that the sovereignty of indigenous peoples is tantamount to challenge climate catastrophe. I think that indigenous people have been at the forefront of challenging the things that cause global warming for a long, long time, and I would suspect that overriding that sovereignty is only a way to worsen the situation, and in the process continue the genocidal harm. Everyone take a shot. I said genocide. The genocidal harm of colonialism. So I would say no to that question. I missed a question from. Do I think rights require some level of power to be enforced? By power, I mean the ability to enact one's will of another, just so it doesn't get back down in definitions. For a legalistic view of rights, then yeah, certainly any law requires power to uphold. But this is still indicative of like the way in which lots of people talk about rights is very legalistically, because a lot of the work that I've come across, a lot of people who use the rights frame don't talk about it as enforcing rights. There's just not a way that they speak about it, because they're aware that if they try to get that through in a legal setting, in a policy setting, then it will immediately be subject to hegemonic and institutional capture. So instead they talk about it not as like enforcing this right, but just claiming it back, claiming what normally a social reproductive good back from the area of commodification. You could argue that you need some degree of power to stop commodification of particular goods from happening, but that is part of the collective, the process of building collective power that these groups that I talk to are seeking to build. I mean, building power is one of the bits of bread and butter of left-wing politics. You need some power to overcome the all-encompassing power of fucking capitalism. Thanks for hanging out. I will probably draw to a close fairly soon, given that I'm kind of upset about my guitar being broken. I will try and fix that later. Am I aware of the Kathleen Stock Oxford Union drama? I mean, my thoughts are that Kathleen Stock is a piece of shit. And is it Riz who disrupted that? Is that their name? Who the young person who disrupted that event is incredibly brave, and it's I'm fine with deplatforming pieces of shit. It doesn't bother me. A lot of people are like, oh, it's a slippery slope when you ban people from certain events. It's like, no, it's not. It's fine. Just ban them. Fuck them. This sort of thing, like, she has an immense amount of power, and her being interrupted during a scheduled event is not an infringement of her free speech in any reasonable sense. Yeah, that's my basic thoughts on that. Have I read a Peter Gelderloo's book on how nonviolence protects the state? Nope. I did read Judith Butler's book on nonviolence, and I thought it was not good. Unfortunately, I thought it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a pacifist by any means. I think that's quite clear. Yeah, I didn't read that book. All right, let's start bringing this to a close, and I will see if I can fix my guitar. Thanks for coming along, everyone. Nice wee stream. How do I balance the tension between the university as a site of capture and the goal of knowledge as liberation? Fuck, I'll let you know as soon as I find that out. I'll finish this question and then we'll head off. Great guest as well. Yeah, everyone follow Sinan. One of the things that I will do going forward, or aim to do going forward with research, is to only do work that relates to movements that I have been actively involved in, which is some of the case with my PhD. With some people I interviewed with my PhD, though, that's not the case. And in order to avoid a kind of extractive process, I want to make it much more a reflection of my actual political work. And in that sense, kind of, to some degree, resist that knowledge capture. But there's no way to do it fully within the university system. That's basically it. And with that, we'll head off. Cheers, everyone, and I'll see you next time.